What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Too Pop to Handle. I am your host, Andrew Nucatola, your pop culture best friend. And as always, I hope you guys are having a fabulous week. If you were lucky enough to see the Northern Lights last week, just let me tell you how jealous I am of you. I also feel like there was a giant group chat where everybody and their mother knew that the Northern Lights were going to be visible from like these odd spaces. And somehow I got left out of it. Like, was there an email chain that went around? Was there like a text message that went around? Like, how did everybody know to look outside for the Northern Lights that night? Except for me. I definitely had a little FOMO, which I usually don't get. Like, FOMO is not something I deal with often because I'm usually like, you know what? If I wasn't at this experience or I didn't see something like that, like, it wasn't meant for me. Like, it is what it is. Life goes on. But this, I'm like, did everybody know except for me? Like, I genuinely feel like I'm the only person in the world who didn't get to post a picture of it on Instagram, which obviously isn't the point, but like, you know what I'm saying. So if anybody left me out of the group chat, just know you're on my list. But that being said, I did end up seeing something equally as exciting to me over the weekend. And if you follow me on my socials, if you listened to last week's episode, you already know, but I had a religious and spiritual awakening over the weekend, and I went to the sweat tour. Finally, I flew to Denver for less than 48 hours. I literally landed at 9 a.m. in Denver time and I got home by 10 p.m. New York time. So 30 something hours. It was the quickest trip of my life and it was worth every single second. You guys, this tour was insane. Obviously it was a concert and like they were doing their thing. Troy killed it, Charli killed it, Shy Girl killed it. Like it was incredible performance wise, but the energy and the vibe within this room was so insane. I literally forgot that I wasn't in a Brooklyn warehouse. Like it genuinely, I felt like I was out in like some random dingy Brooklyn basement where like you can't hear anything you're thinking. All you see is lights. It was in fucking incredible. There's like a few weeks left. I literally think there's like 2 more weeks left. They're in LA tonight. I know they have a few more West Coast dates. So it's definitely coming to like the end of the tour. But if you have the chance to see this show, please go see it. It was so fucking good. And I kind of have a hot take. Like, I know this might, rub some people the wrong way, and I am not here to pit women against each other. That is never what I want to do here at Too Pop to Handle. But having seen Chappell Roan and Charli XCX within the same calendar year, I'm going to go on record and say doing the Apple Dance live was so much more fun than Hot to Going live. And hear me out. The Apple Dance, you have one opportunity. There is literally like 25 seconds in the song where you can all come together, snap in, and get this right. You have one opportunity. With Hot to Go, you do it like 4 times throughout the song. It is literally every time there's a chorus, you are doing HOT, like you're doing it. You know what I mean? With the Apple Dance, you have one chance to lock in, get your mark, hit the beats, and it was a euphoric experience having an entire an arena of people doing this silly little TikTok dance together. It was incredible. The entire show was just like out of control. It was fucking unreal. Lived up to every single expectation that I had. It was worth every penny. It was worth every second. It was incredible. I had the time of my life in that show. Also, Denver was such a cute city, like so cute, such a cute little area. Also, the train system was so nice. As somebody who's obviously from New York, I take trains very seriously because I take the train multiple times a day. I take it everywhere. It is like my regular form of transportation. When I got to the airport and got onto the train, I was like, this is the cleanest commuter rail I have ever seen in my life. It was immaculate. It was so easy to use. I loved it. Denver was a fabulous city to visit. I am so glad I went, and I definitely want to go back and like check it out and see kind of more of like the mountains, less of the city, really like take in what they have. But I was there for one reason and one reason only, and that was to see Charli and Troy, and it exceeded all of my expectations. It was fabulous. And we're going to talk about the Brat remix album in just a little bit. Guys, you know the drill. We get into our music and, a little bit later in the show. But before we hop into our pop culture moments from the week that were just too pop to handle, I have to just give a little shout out to the current white boy of the month, because he might be the white boy of the month to you, but he is like the white boy of a lifetime to me. And that is Andrew Garfield. We are getting fed so much quality Andrew Garfield content lately, and I am eating every single it up. He was just in the BuzzFeed puppy interview. He's going to be on Chicken Shop Date this weekend, which are going to be incredible. He's doing the press for the new movie with Florence Pugh that's coming out, or that already came out, We Live in Time. Haven't seen it yet, but it looks incredibly devastating, and it's on my list, but I need to like mentally prep myself for a sad movie like that. So I see everything he's in for the most part, so definitely on my list to see. It looks incredible, but I'm just loving all of these little like press moments we're getting from him. He is everywhere. Everyone's eating him up, and I just needed to, give him a shout out because I love him. He is one of my number one all-time celebrity crushes, and I'm eating up every little ounce of content we are getting from him. Give it to me all the time. I'm loving it. So I just need to, give him a little shout out and make sure, you guys know where I stand with that, because I know he's the white boy of your month, but he is, he has a residency as the white boy of the month with me. That being said, let's hop into our pop culture moments from the week that were just too pop to handle, a little rapid fire moment. First things first, it is crazy to even be saying this, but we have some information on the 2025 Met Gala. So we found out that the exhibit that's going to be unveiled at the Met Gala next year is going to be called Superfine, Tailoring Black Style. It's an exposition that will present a cultural and historical examination of the Black dandy from the figure's emergence in the Enlightenment Europe during the 18th century to today's incarnations in cities around the world. Drawing inspiration from Monica L. Miller's 2009 book, Slaves to Fashion, the exhibit will feature garments, paintings, photographs, and more, all exploring the indelible style of Black men in the context of dandyism from the 18th century through present day. We also find out who the chairs are going to be. So we have Coleman Domingo, Lewis Hamilton, A$AP Rocky, Pharrell Williams, Anna Wintour, and we also have LeBron James, who will be an honorary chair with them. So lots of information for the upcoming event. And there's a lot to kind of dive into here. So people are already obviously like, oh my gosh, like how are people going to dress for this? And it's something to note that this isn't necessarily the dress code. Obviously, the dress code is always following the exhibit to some extent, but this isn't necessarily what people are going to be wearing. So we don't really know what to expect for the red carpet yet. I think people just get so wrapped up in the Met Gala and are like, oh my God, this is the exhibit. This is exactly what people are going to be wearing, which honestly, I feel like this would be a really cool switch up for the Met Gala to do. So ideally, think menswear, think like tailored suits, like cool, like just a lot of very people could do really cool like shoulder pieces with it. I feel like the women could do really sick like long blazers, like almost like blazer dresses, and really do like a feminine spin on it, because again, it is like menswear. There's a lot of history to it, and I think it's something that the Met Gala hasn't done in this aspect. I think it's actually the first time that they would be diving into like this pocket of culture, and I think it'll be really interesting to see the way people do it on the carpet. And now, of course, everybody starts to speculate what the dress code is going to be, what people are going to be wearing, and it starts to kind of raise the question of like, where is the line for non-people of color, and like what can they do to obviously pay homage and stay on theme with the dress code without overstepping a boundary, because obviously this is so deep rooted in Black culture. So I think that with the dress code, whenever that comes out, it'll probably be in the next few months. I mean, yeah, we're only 7 months away from the Met Gala. That is crazy. That being said, obviously we're going to get the dress code in just a few months, so we'll find out exactly what it is, and I'm sure there's going to be some type of like deeper thought process with it, where it's not just going to be strictly inspo from the exhibit. They're going to probably do something a little bit different for it, but also paying homage to it. So we will see. But people are like up in arms over this, and they're like, oh my gosh, like, it's going to be a boring theme and this and that. And like, I think everyone needs to just again, like I said a few weeks ago, media literacy is very important. If you read into it, you will know that the dress code is not announced yet. So obviously, yes, it is going to follow the exhibit in some sense, but it is not set what the dress code is yet. They can do really whatever they want. They will obviously take like homage and take inspiration from it, but I definitely don't think they're just going to be like, all right, everybody's wearing menswear essentially to the Met Gala. Like, I don't see a world in which that happens. And realistically, nobody follows the theme anyway. Argue with the wall. People show up to the Met Gala wearing whatever they want just to have their like red carpet moment. So even if this does end up being the dress code, I don't think people are going to follow it regardless, because they don't follow it when it's a fun one anyway. So Moving on from the Met Gala, we have some concert news. Did you guys know I love to chat about concert news? But this is some concert news that comes with a little, it packs a punch to say the least. So Olivia Rodrigo took a tumble this week at her show in Australia. So she was performing in Melbourne on Monday, and it was actually her last of 4 shows in this arena. And it's the second to last venue she's playing on the Guts tour. If you guys didn't see the video, she took a hit falling into this hole. So she was like, I think it was towards the end of the show, she was like running back and forth, like saying goodnight to everyone, like saying thank you, and just kind of, doing what people do. They're like saying they're doing their bows, get home safe, the whole vibe. And she like sprinted across the stage at one point, and it's weird because you can see the little lift in the stage, it's closed, and then it opens as she's running back, and she just like completely dives into it. Like the ground fell out from underneath her, and it looked so painful. She climbed out and she was like, I'm okay, I'm good, that's not supposed to happen, and like kept going on with the night. Like she was fine in that sense, but that was insane. I was like, who in their right mind was like watching her on stage and like accidentally pressed open the fucking trap door for her to fall through? It was fucking crazy. And I was like, that had to have hurt. Like she definitely has a bruise or two on her ribs, the way that she like completely got like body rocked by this stage. And she's little, like she's an itty bitty, she's like a little rag doll. She's like probably like 150 pounds when she's wet. So the fact that she just like flew into this and hit herself on it, I was like, ooh, she is going to feel that in her guts later on. But it also led me to the question of like, when is this tour fucking ending? I feel like she has been on tour forever. She kicked it off in February of this year, and she definitely has had breaks here and there throughout the legs, and she is doing a full world tour. But I was like, this has been going on for so long. I think I'm also just kind of like conditioned to people doing shorter tours again, because I feel like after COVID, people weren't doing like full body tours. Like I feel like until like Renaissance and Eras tour, people weren't doing like actual world tours and like doing this for months. And I guess when you think Olivia Rodrigo, like it's only her second tour, so to see her doing this for so long, I'm like, she's got some star power in her to be still going. And she is not done. Like I said, she is wrapping up next week in Sydney, and then it picks back up in March, from March to July for just festivals. So I'm curious to see what she does between then and now, because she obviously has, now a bruised rib that she has to heal after falling into the stage. But is she going to release music? She also has Coachella weekend open. So like, I feel like that could be a fun little thing she could throw in and like, just kind of like add to the hype of like ending this leg or era, whatever you want to call it. So very curious. I like wasn't thinking anything new from Olivia anytime soon, but knowing that she has this really long break and then she's just doing festivals next year, it kind of raises my question. I'm like, I wonder if we're going to see anything new from her in the next couple of months. So we will see. I would love a new Olivia track. So we will see what we get from there. Hope she's okay. Hope, her ribs and everything are healing all right, because the bitch took a tumble. That was fucking nuts. Moving on to our next topic of the week, Megan Thee Stallion is set to release a new documentary with Amazon Prime called In Her Words. So Megan Thee Stallion, In Her Words, offers an unprecedented access to the multifaceted woman behind the persona. Follow the Houston native's journey on the road to stardom as she tenaciously navigates fame, grief, pressure, and success. The documentary unpacks Megan's most vulnerable moments in a powerful way that allows fans to meet the real Megan Pete. So we are getting a little inside look at Megan Thee Stallion and her life, and it is kind of interesting that this is her first documentary, because she kind of did have this like really crazy accelerated come up. She was obviously doing her like mixtape things for a few years, but I feel like 2019 hit and she just like, she had the Hot Girl Summer remix with Nicki, and it's been up and up and up from there. And it kind of has been like, I feel like we obviously hear a lot about her life through her music and her raps and things like that. And, she tells us a lot. She's been through a lot of shit in her life, but this is the first time we're actually going to get kind of her story in that sense. So I'm excited for that. So the film will premiere on Prime Video on October 31st for Halloween, which is perfect. She loves Halloween. Every year she throws a Hottieween party. She picks a city and does like a giant Halloween party her fans can buy tickets to. Looks like so much fun. I would love to go to it one year, but this year I believe it is in Chicago, so I will not be making it for that. She posted it to her Instagram and said, I'm nervous and excited for y'all to see it, but it's finally here. But yeah, I'm very excited for this. She has a sad upbringing. I mean, she's lost both of her parents at such a young age. She was still going through college while she was having this like crazy success of her first EP and mixtape and everything. Like she's really, also not to mention like getting shot in the foot and like all the backstabbing just happened with her, with Nicki. And there's a lot to unpack there. And I feel like, she gets a lot of heat online because somebody else's fandom is fucking crazy and isn't afraid to, just like be insanely cruel to women, barbs. And yeah, so I feel like we're going to see and learn a lot about Megan in this, and I'm very excited. The fact that this is her first documentary and she's had this like 5-year come up now, that there's actually things to talk about. I'm very excited for this, and I'm very excited to see what she lets us know about, like what she tells us that, maybe things that are unclear from her past and things like that, and just kind of excited to see how she talks about like dealing with grief and fame and all this stuff all at once has like, either like built her up and like, I mean, she's been on this crazy tour, and even since like she kind of had this like crazy come up during COVID, and now that she's like out in the real world since 2021, she's had like every single brand deal under the sun. She's collabed with so many artists. She's just kind of been nonstop. And like literally Megan Thee Stallion, she could change her name to Megan the Workhorse because she is just going like crazy. And she's been very vocal about her mental health struggles. If you remember, God, what was it, like 2022, I want to say maybe? It was when her first album, her second album came out. She released that song Anxiety, and she released that website, and it was like Bad Bitches Have Bad Days Too. And it was like a list of mental health resources that was like local to you. So she's very vocal about her mental health and, what she goes through. But I feel like this is going to be it's going to be cool to see it more in a documentary sense versus, in a song where we have to kind of like listen to her lyrics and just like interpret it how we want. So very excited for that. You guys know I love Megan, so I will eat up anything she does. And this, I feel like, is going to be something really just like a different take on Megan Thee Stallion, and I'm very excited for it. And speaking of different takes on some people, we have gotten the list for Rolling Stone's Musicians on Musicians for 2024, and I am so excited. I love series like this. It's very like actors on actors with variety, where they just have two people in the same field interviewing each other and talking about like what's going on. So the series invites artists to interview each other about life, music, and everything in between. So we got the list of who is interviewing who, but on the first line of the list, it is completely blurred out and it says cover stars to be announced on October 16th. So if you're listening to this on the day that the episode comes out, you already probably know who the cover stars are. There's a lot of rumors, and the biggest one going around right now is Ariana Grande and Sabrina Carpenter, which it would just be like the collapse of all collapse. We're going to talk a lot about Ariana later, but we are just like, we're getting so much Ariana Grande content right now. And obviously Sabrina Carpenter has just been like in everybody's face for the last 2 years, rightfully so. And I just think the two of them sitting down, they get so many comparisons, and like there's so many, there's so much, people always love to like pit women against each other and be like, she's copying her, they're doing like whatever. And I think the two of them sitting down and doing an interview together would be so good because there's clearly respect. I mean, literally Sabrina opened for Ariana on the Dangerous Woman tour back in 2016, 2017, whenever that was. So clearly like they're good. Like they worked together before, whatever, but you know how the internet gets to get, and like Stan Twitter gets fucking crazy. So I would love to see the two of them sit down. We really have no idea. There's no hints. It's just what people are assuming. So we will find out today if you're listening to this, or if not, it's already out. I'm sure I've posted about it and I will talk about it next week for sure. But the list is very exciting. So we are also getting interviews from Lisa and Tyla, Timbaland and Metro Boomin, Christina Aguilera and Ray, Natalia Lafourcade and Leon Bridges, Renee Rapp and Cynthia Erivo, and Coco Jones and Ayra Starr. I mean, I just need to put this shit in reverse. Cynthia Erivo and Renee Rapp. Are we fucking kidding? Oh my God. I consistently talk about how much I love Renee Rapp because there is nothing I love more than a Broadway girl turned pop star. And Renee is just like the perfect example of that because she brings these like crazy Broadway vocals to these fun and like upbeat and fun pop songs. I mean, Sabrina Carpenter is also Broadway turned pop star. She was a pop star prior, but she was on Broadway at one point. Ariana Grande is one of them. So like, I just love a Broadway girl turned pop girl. And the fact that Renee and Cynthia are going to be chatting together, it also just, I can't stop thinking about like that Renee Rapp TikTok or Vine, whatever it was. And she was like, I just saw Wicked. I loved it. One short day in the Emerald City. It's so funny. Like just the fact that they're doing this together. Side note, not to pivot, but I keep like editing back and I realize that I've just been getting more comfortable singing on the podcast with you guys, which is just like the theater kid in me coming out. So I apologize. I'm not going to stop doing it, but I am aware of it. And yeah, I guess, take me for what I am, who I was meant to be. That's that. Anyway, Renee Rapp and Cynthia Erivo, I am so sat for. I am so excited. I'm very curious to see who this cover star ends up being. So we will see tomorrow, or today rather. But yeah, this is very exciting. Again, I love these series. I think it's so much fun to kind of break that fourth wall between artists and have the two of them sit down and chat with each other. A24 does this also, where they'll have like two celebrities interview each other. The one that I think about immediately is when they had Lorde and Hunter Schafer interview each other. Loved that interview. So very excited for this. We will see, who the cover star ends up being, and we will see what these interviews have in store. They get released every day. So it's the 16th, the 17th, the 18th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th. So every weekday until the 24th, we'll get a new interview. I am very excited. I cannot wait. And that wraps up our pop culture moment from the week. There were just two pop to handle. And moving right along into our next segment of the show, it is time for my Drew releases, which is where I talk about my new music releases from last week and the new releases coming up this week. We're going to switch things up a little bit this week because it just makes more sense to talk about last week's releases and bleed into the main topics of the show. It'll make sense when I get there. So we're going to talk about this week's releases first, and then we'll go into what came out last week. So we don't have anything on the docket necessarily this week, but October 18th is kind of like become like a clowning moment for multiple fandoms, and we don't know what's going to happen or if anything is going to happen. In case you missed it, I talked about it in my newsletter, which, shameless plug, if you are not subscribed to my Substack, it is twopoptohandle.substack.com, and you get an extra little bonus moments from the week. There were just two pop to handle every single weekend, and I do some bonus extra like blog content there, which is super fun. But I talked about this week in the newsletter how Joe Jonas and Shawn Mendes both moved their album releases from October 18th, and no one really knows why, and like no one knows if it's just like a coincidence or like what's going on, but lots of speculation on who is going to release. There was Harry Styles, Taylor Swift, Lady Gaga. I don't know if anybody is actually going to release this Friday. I feel like it's kind of just like people clowning and, just like jumping to conclusions. And I'm on board with it. I'm like, that is very weird that two male pop stars are moving their album release dates. I don't know. It was very strange. Who knows? Rebecca Black is releasing this Friday, which I don't think she's the one who's making people, move their albums around. But who knows? I mean, don't underestimate the power of Rebecca Black. We all remember how viral Friday was. So that being said, we will see what comes up this Friday. I don't know. It might be nothing. It might be something. It might be crazy. We will see. But that being said, let's talk about what came out last week. We had a surprise drop from Ollie Alexander, who is previously known as Years and Years. He dropped a single, Cupid's Bow, which is the second single from his upcoming album, Polari, which is coming out in February. It featured the song Dizzy, which we talked about back in March when it came out. And this kind of came out of nowhere. Nobody even knew that this was coming out or anything like that, which, it is what it is. I feel like surprise drops are very common nowadays. So surprise drops are kind of like not a surprise anymore. Like, yes, it's a surprise in the matter of the fact that like we didn't know what was happening, but it's like, okay, cool. Like you're just dropping a song whenever you feel like. It's like, doesn't have the same like feel to it as it used to. Like it'll never be Beyonce's self-titled album. But that being said, he released a new single called Cupid's Bow, and I am loving it. I feel like he does not get enough credit for like the killer pop music that he puts out. I said it with Dizzy too. I was like, he just like releases his little gay music and it reaches, the audience that it reaches, but like he does not get enough credit for how good his music is. Even when he was doing Years and Years and now he's doing his solo stuff, like he's just so good. I love him. I love this track. Very excited to see what this album has in store for us in February. So we will, chat about that as we go, and I'm sure we'll get more singles before it comes out. But if you're looking for a new like fun gay pop star to tune into, or just like somebody new to throw into your mix, I cannot recommend Ollie Alexander enough. I love him. Go check out the Palo Santo album from Years and Years. It is one of my favorite albums. It is fantastic. Also their first album, I'm drawing a blank on what it's called. What is that album called? Drawing a blank right now, but really, really good. Honestly, all of his stuff is good. So go check him out. Loving this new single. Very excited for a new album from him. We will chat about that more as it comes. And obviously, the green elephant in the room is the Brat remix. So we talked about it last week and we have a lot to talk about. So I'm not going to talk about every single track just because I would be here forever because I have a lot to say. So I picked out a few. I picked out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 of the tracks to chat about. Some I have some more things to say. Some I just want to talk about how much I love it. So let's dive into it. I'm sure you all know Charli released her remix album to Brat last weekend, and the way that she did it, let's just give her flowers where they are due, because this was such a fun way to do a remix album. Not only, I wouldn't even call it a remix album, it's like a reimagined album. All of these songs, most of these songs, not all of them, a majority of these songs have completely different like sounds to them. They still obviously have that like the original song woven into it, but she really like took these songs and made it something new on pretty much every single track. And I'm really impressed at the way that she was like took these messages from the original songs and took some of the hooks, but like completely transformed not only just the sound, but like the meaning and like what the lyrics are about. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about So I featuring A.G. Cook, which I was talking about last week, how special it is to have A.G. Cook on this because it is a song that's dedicated to Sophie, who has passed away. And the way that they did this song was such a beautiful tribute to Sophie and such a celebration of life. It really, especially for like Charli fans who have been around since the Vroom Vroom EP and like since Sophie and Charli have been working together, if you've been with her for a while and you know Sophie, like this song and these new lyrics walk you through Charli's journey with Sophie. And if you've seen the interview, I forget where it is, but there's one interview where they ask Charli about Sophie and like what she meant to her. And she just like breaks down. She's like, I've never met somebody like that. Like she touched so many people and like she has such a unique way of experiencing music and producing music. And you could just really tell how much Charli genuinely loved and adored Sophie. And it shines through in her music. And I think this rework and this remix of this song is so beautifully done. Even at the beginning, there's like that, with like that like buzzing at the beginning is very reminiscent of like LOVE from Sophie's album. There's a Bip sample, there's Party for You. Like there's so many Sophie callbacks within this track while A.G. Cook and Charli are both like talking about their experiences. Such a beautiful celebration of her life and the work that they all made together. So like I said, I was going to love this. I knew it was going to be great. So they exceeded every expectation with this track. I keep seeing people posting, listening to it, just like crying because it is when you know like the lore behind Charli and Sophie and like all of that stuff, like it really does hit a different chord. And yeah, it was just a beautifully done remix, reimagined song, whatever you want to call it. Absolutely loved it. The next track that I was absolutely loving is B2B featuring Tinashe. Like I said last week, this kind of had like high stakes because they were kind of getting their second opportunity to collab together from Drop That Kitty back in 2015. And it's just so much fun. It's so good. Again, they're kind of taking this track and giving it a second life and like breathing new energy into it. It's all about their come up together and like how they've kind of both been in the music sphere, but like they never had like crazy big breakthroughs. They just kind of like been in like that niche little pop culture, you know, stan Twitter, gay music kind of corner of the world. And now they're both kind of having their moment. Charli with Brat, Tinashe with Nasty. Charli says, didn't come out of nowhere. Oh, I'm sorry. Tinashe said, didn't come out of nowhere. They've been sleeping on me. I'm bored. She also says, like, I hope you enjoy having me on your mood board. Like, it's very evident that the two of them are just, like, talking their shit on this track together, which I love. Charli says, I made him boom clack. Now we got them two on, which obviously boom clap is Charli's song. Two on is one of Tinashe's biggest songs. So they're just, like, talking their shit on this track, and I love it. It's so fun. This song by itself, like originally, is already like so much fun and I love it, but like having this little remix and like kind of switching up, you know, the verses and things like that, beautifully done. Absolutely loved it. And now there are two tracks last week that I was talking about where I was like, I don't understand why she's having these two straight men collab on these tracks. I'm just going to take back those statements. Like I said, I didn't think Charli would steer us wrong. I didn't think she would give us anything quote unquote bad for the Brat album, but I was so confused as to why we were getting Mean Girls featuring Julian Casablancas. And I think about it all the time featuring Bon Iver because Mean Girls is obviously about like essentially a socialite and like a mean girl who's just, you know, a bitch. And like I was like, why are we getting a man on this track? Like it just didn't make sense. And then I think about it all the time, that song is so empowering almost for women specifically because she's talking about wanting to have a baby and societal pressures and things like that. So I just didn't understand where it was coming from, but that was before I knew the way she was going to reimagine and remix these songs and kind of give them a new breath of life. And I think now knowing that, like if I knew that last week, I wouldn't have raised an eyebrow at these two remixes because now listening to them, I'm like, these are beautifully done. I absolutely love them. So let's talk about Mean Girls first. First and foremost, there's that sample of Owner of a Lonely Heart by Yes, and it just adds so much more message and depth into the new lyrics that Julian is bringing into it. So he says, I played this game before, fighting for a hopeless cause, and now you're at my door. I've seen this trick before. Here's one for the one who left, and here's one for the abandonment. So the new reimagined version of this song, if you want to call it that, is Julian essentially being like, I'm being played, my heart's being played with. This mean girl is fucking with my head, fucking with my emotions. She's abandoning me. Like, I've played this game before. I've been the one fighting for a hopeless cause. And this one's for the mean girls who are, leaving me down in the dumps. So such a different way to approach the song and to spin it. And it just kind of gives a nod to Charli's brain and the way that she works and like the way she's able to really just like think of so many different layers for the music that she puts out and really is able to make it her own no matter how she wants to. And like she was able to think like, hey, what if we flip the narrative and now this is somebody singing to the mean girl from the perspective of like being led on by them. And I love that. Such a creative way to spin it. And then similar to Bon Iver. So the whole thing with this remix album is kind of like the come down after the party. Like there's a lot of feelings on this album. You're experiencing like a whole plethora of emotions. So this one is kind of like when the party ends, am I actually happy? Like I'm out partying. Maybe I fell in love. Everything seems right, but like at the end of the day, like, am I really good? Like, am I really happy? Am I content with where my life is? Like, am I where I want to be? Am I where I'm quote unquote supposed to be? There's one line where he says, I found love, but did it all have to be so hard? I'm scared to run out of time. Like, they are tackling messages on this song that are very real for, us 29, turning 30 soon year old people or people who might be in their 30s. Like, it's it's a transformative time in a lot of our lives, and Charli being in her 30s and, me coming into my 30s soon. I don't know if it's just because of my age, you just think you're like, am I where I want to be? Is this where I'm supposed to be? Like, you just have a lot of like, a lot of different thoughts as you start to age and things like that. So I thought the way that they took this track and just kind of reimagined it in that sense was beautifully done. I absolutely loved it. And again, I take back my statements from last week because I fully understand why they were both on these tracks. I'm not going to talk too much about this one because I'm just going to say I just fucking love it. 365 was Shy Girl. Fucking insane. I loved it. It's already such a party song. So for them to just take it to that next level just makes it even more fun. Everybody went nuts during this live. I go nuts to it in my headphones. Like, it is just so much fun. Love what they did there. Another one that I just love what they did. And I actually last week was saying, I was like, I can't believe there's no Spring Breakers remix. But at the same time, I'm not mad about it because it is a perfect song as it is. But lo and behold, we ended up getting a Kesha remix, which we had been teased a Kesha remix for months. If you remember back when Brat was like being teased, even before the album came out, there was a truck driving around and one of the screens, it flashed Brat green and just said Kesha. So everybody was like, okay, Kesha's going to be on this album to some retrospect, right? Like she must be. And then nothing came from it. And then we got the album on Friday. On Sunday, she posted that we are getting the Kesha remix. It is out. The OG party girls are doing their thing. I'm not going to come on here and be like, oh my God, it's the best remix I've ever heard, because like, honestly, it's not the best remix I've ever heard. It's definitely not my favorite by far on the album, but just having Charli and Kesha work together is enough for me. It's not bad by all means, but it's definitely not like, it's not the next track we're going to talk about, which is Sympathy is a Knife featuring Ariana Grande. But that being said, I love that Kesha is on this. Like she said, they are really the OG party girls. Like the two of them have been doing this shit for years. So to finally have a collab between the two of them, it just feels right. And I'm loving it. So much fun. And I am a little confused as to why like it wasn't just on the album to begin with. I don't understand that tactic of it, but that being said, now we only have one track left of the album that hasn't been remixed. It's Hello Goodbye. So who knows if we'll get a remix down the road, if they will do it at all, if they'll just leave it as it is. Your guess is as good as mine. But we have one more track to talk about, and it leads us into one of our main girls of the show, Ariana Grande, and it is Sympathy is a Knife featuring Ariana Grande. My God. You guys know I am such a big fan of Ariana. I am obviously such a huge fan of Charli. So when I saw that this remix was happening, it was a moment for everybody, especially for the gays, but like I was fucking floored. And I wasn't sure what to expect. I was saying last week I thought Ariana would go like Good Night and Go, Imogen Heap kind of vibe, where it's a little less of her traditional singing. And, I didn't know what to expect, just like knowing Sympathy is a Knife and not knowing how she would kind of layer herself on top of it. But then again, like I said, we didn't realize she would be completely reimagining so many of these tracks, and the way that they kind of like switched some of the melodies and the tunes to it. It was perfectly done. And once again, Ariana is just done with everybody's shit. She does not give a fuck what you think about her. She doesn't give a fuck, what the media is saying, what the mean fans are saying. She has the whole line saying it's a knife when the mean fans hate the nice fans. Like, the whole track is just kind of the two of them going back and forth and being like, it is literally a knife to be a female in the media, in the limelight, and everything you do is wrong. You're never pretty enough. You're never good enough. This is never perfect. Like, everything is just so over criticized, especially for females in the media. And I think this collab it just fell so perfectly with like what Ariana is preaching right now. Like, she's kind of in this like I don't give a fuck era where she is very much just like doing her thing. She's been painted so many colors by the media, by people online, and I think she is such a perfect definition of being a brat this year. She's like, nobody knows the story, nobody knows what's going on. I'm just gonna do my thing, have my man, promote my movie, get a killer viewership on SNL, which we'll get into in a second, and just keep it pushing, which was more brat than that, than like not giving a fuck. I loved it. Perfect remix. So much fun to have her on this album. Like I said last week, as somebody whose favorite albums of the year are Eternal Sunshine and Brat, this is so major for me. I loved it. Not a single note. And we're going to keep the show pushing on some more Ariana Grande news because, as I'm sure you all know, Miss Thing hosted SNL this weekend and it was just perfection. It was absolutely my favorite SNL appearance she has ever had. It was their most viewed episode since 2021, bringing in 5.57 million views. She's also given them their most viewed and liked TikTok with 60.8 million views and 6.8 million likes on the bridesmaid skit that she did with that like espresso cover that they did. Loved the skit, thought it was hilarious. Love that people are eating it up the way that they should be. And I think it's kind of funny because the second most viewed and most liked TikTok from SNL is Pete Davidson and Timothy Chalamet doing their that like little rap skit that they did that has 36.5 million views and 6.6 million likes. So Ariana's like doubling the views on that. And when you think about the fact that like Ariana and Pete were once engaged, and they might have been engaged when that skit came out, actually. My timelines, I'm not, I can't do all that math really quick. But regardless, it is just kind of funny to see like the two people with the most viewed TikToks on SNL being Pete Davidson and Ariana Grande, because it feels like their engagement was like another lifetime ago. Yeah, just a funny little thing. But like I said, this was incredible. It was absolutely my favorite appearance she has had yet. And if singing does not work out for her, she has a clear career path in impersonations and like sketch comedy because she nailed it. I feel like her going on this time, it just reminded all of us that like she is so much more than just like such a gorgeous and stunning voice of our generation. She really can do it all. Like, she is such a great actress. She's able to like adapt to different characters. And I think it was so smart to do this right before Wicked comes out, to just remind everybody how talented she is acting wise versus just singing, because you think Ariana Grande, you think singing, which obviously Wicked is a musical, but there's so much more acting than there will be singing in the movies, and the first half of the movie is going to focus a lot more on Elphaba. So I'm very excited to see like the way people perceive her acting after SNL and now going into the Wicked movie. I mean, like I said, it was the most viewed episode they've had since 2021, and I mean, I thought everybody hated the bitch, but clearly she is still pulling these numbers. I did a whole breakdown of every single sketch and like a ranking that she was on over on my Substack, so that's twopoptohandle.substack.com. But you guys know this podcast is like the main, like the meat and potatoes of my content. So though I did already give my Substack and my subscribers there a little idea what I was thinking, I obviously had to bring it to the main show and save something for you guys. So we did not talk about the monologue on there, and that was intentional because I thought the monologue was perfectly done and honestly a highlight of the entire episode. It was so good. I love the dress. She is so committed to this like wicked bounding that she's doing, which is sticking with pink everywhere she goes. I thought it set the scene for such a hilarious episode, and she followed through with it. You know, sometimes you get a really good monologue and then the skits just like don't compare to it, and like all you remember is the monologue. And I feel like in this case, a lot of the sketches were so good that people are forgetting how good the monologue was, which is fine with me because she's obviously there to be in the sketches. Like, when you're there as a host, you're there to add something to the cast and kind of like, you know, be not a supplement, but just like supplement like comedy and like show your skills and your techniques and like what you have to offer as an actress, as whatever you know your main gig is. And I think just like the way she set the monologue up to then go into these like killer sketches, and she was in 7 of them. I don't think there was maybe there was like one or two sketches that she wasn't in. Like they had our girl working and she killed every single role. But like I said, I thought the monologue just set us up for like a perfect episode, and it carried through so well. I loved it. I thought the whole moment where she was like, yeah, I'm not going to make it about me. I'm going to keep it low key, and then breaks into an entire song. Perfectly funny, so well done. And it was really one of the only times we heard her actually sing throughout the episode. We heard her sing, but not in the most favorable way. Or we did get the one. So she sang, what was it, 3 times, not including the monologue. So we got the monologue, and then she did the espresso cover and the bridesmaid skit, which was fucking hilarious. And that's the one that's like the most like on TikTok right now. But obviously she was not singing anywhere near the key, which was the point. Then we had the Antonio skit, which was so disturbing and fucking hilarious. But clearly like that, she also was not singing properly. She did sing well in My Best Friend's House, which is the one about her best friend's dad being a serial killer. But like, I don't think that's something to be like, oh my God, she can sing great about, someone being a serial killer, because the point of that wasn't her singing. The point was that like her best friend's dad was a serial killer. So when we're talking about like actual singing chops and like points in the show where she was singing to like just show off her vocal abilities, we really were only left with the monologue, which I think was perfect because again, she was not the musical guest. Stevie Nicks was. And I thought the monologue, it showcased her voice a little bit, reminded us of her comedy chops and like that. We all know she can sing, but like it just added that extra level to like what she was there to do. Bowen's cameo was perfect. It was so funny. It was just, they didn't miss a beat. It was perfect. It was so well done. And it just set us up for a perfect episode. Something that I thought was interesting though, she posted a carousel on Instagram either yesterday or today. And there were some characters within the carousel that she didn't end up doing. She was dressed up as Judy Garland in one of them, which if you know me, if you're watching the video, Judy Garland is literally on my wall. Like, love Judy. She is like an all-time diva, obviously, and I would have loved to see any type of Judy Garland skit from her. She also was giving Taylor Swift in one of the pictures she posted. It was like a blonde bang, plaid skirt. We all know Taylor's thing right now is plaid, so I'm very curious, like, what those sketches had in store for us and like what they were going to do. Sometimes they do release unaired sketches if they pre-film them, because obviously not every single thing on SNL is live. Sometimes they do release them a little bit later, so maybe the Taylor and Judy ones are pre-filmed. I remember when she was on in like 2016, whenever she was the host and the musical guest, they had like 4 sketches that they ended up posting after the episode had aired because they just did not have screen time to air every single sketch. So maybe they will see the light of day one day, but as of now, we are just left with these photos of her cosplaying as Judy Garland and cosplaying as Taylor Swift. And moving on from SNL, we also have some Wicked updates because they are just in full speed ahead with Wicked mode. So obviously, a few weeks ago, we were talking about the whole Vanity Fair article that Cynthia and Ariana did, and there's been so much press. I mean, they are just on this press junket pretty much until November 22nd now. I feel like it's just going to be down our throats more than ever. We knew that October 1st was kicking Wicked into high gear, but like, I didn't realize the magnitude in which they were going to kick Wicked into high gear because it has been non-stop. So last week we had Wicked tickets go on sale. I secured mine. I'm going 2 days early. I am so excited. Actually, if you follow me on Twitter, you saw I had a little gay dilemma. I've solved it now, but I bought tickets to go see Oh Mary on Broadway like 3 weeks ago for the same date that I accidentally ended up buying Wicked tickets for, which is like the gayest mistake I've ever made. And then Oh Mary retweeted it and all these gays were in my replies like, so what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? So Too Pop to Handle exclusive, I did end up selling my Oh Mary tickets on StubHub. I'm going to buy for another date. I'm not going to see Oh Mary because like I have to see it, but there were more dates and options, believe it or not, to see Oh Mary than there were for Wicked because it's already sold out so many theaters in New York. So sold my Oh Mary tickets. I will go to another show, and I am still seeing Wicked on November 20th. But Fandango has announced that Wicked was their number 2 first day ticket pre-sale of 2024, only behind Deadpool and Wolverine, which obviously Deadpool Wolverine was a huge moment, and like Marvel in and of itself has such a cult following that like it's a no-brainer that did outsell Wicked for first day pre-sale. But I definitely am curious to see like what Wicked ends up doing at the box office, opening weekend. I don't know if everyone is pre-ordering their tickets for a movie the way that, some of us gays are. So we will see what it ends up pulling in the box office. But I mean, to be the number 2 biggest first day ticket pre-sale of 2024 is pretty impressive. And obviously it's already pulling in crazy numbers. We're also getting a lot of information of like what to expect at the theater. So all the different chains, so AMC, all the different places you can go, Cinemark, all the different theaters are now releasing like what they're doing for the movie. So there's different cups, there's different popcorn buckets. I know my theater is giving out like little Wicked Legos for the screening that I'm going to. There was one theater who was doing like this crazy like $30 ticket deal where you got like the popcorn bucket, the soda cup, and a ticket for $30, which is a crazy deal. Like, they are pulling out all the stops for this movie, and it's giving just like it's making everybody so much more excited, I feel like, because there's so much fandemonium behind it. I cannot wait. I am so excited. It's going to be so major. We're almost a month out. Like, we're like 34 days away from this movie coming out. I cannot wait. It's going to change my life. And we also found out some other exciting news. We found out that Cynthia, Ariana, and a handful of other cast members, they didn't confirm who is going to be in what city, but Ariana and Cynthia will be at every single event, are doing a Journey Through Oz Wicked tour this coming fall. So within the next month or so that fans can buy tickets to. They will be stopping in New York, London, LA, Sydney, and Mexico City. It's a press tour that will transform each stop into a different magical location from the film. So very excited for that. And there's actually, if you guys, I'm sure you've seen her before, but the Oz vlog, she's on TikTok. I'm obsessed with her, and I've been following her for years because I love the Wizard of Oz, and she has like a crazy Wizard of Oz collection. So when the Wicked movie came out, she was like the first one to be on it. She brought up a really interesting point that in 1939, when the Wizard of Oz premieres, Judy Garland, Ray Bolger, and a lot of the cast did a tour very similar to this to promote the movie. So whether that was intentional or not, that they're doing this Wicked little press tour the same way the Wizard of Oz did back in the day, just very reminiscent. And Oz is such like a close-knit community, which, just there's so many different layers and levels to it. I've talked about it on episodes in the past, but just like it's cool to see, what ties in from the Wizard of Oz into Wicked, the stage play, into like the books, and like there's so much that they can pull from. And regardless if that was intentional or not, I am very excited. I'm also very curious if this is what they're going to do with the Wicked train. If you remember with the Olympics, they had the Oz train going through Paris. And I was like, if they bring this to New York or any other city, like I will be sitting at Grand Central Station 4 hours to see this fucking train come through. And I wonder if this is going to be part of it. Regardless, I am excited. I will be going to war to make sure I am in attendance for this. But that being said, we're going to wrap up our Ariana Grande discussion and move on to the next woman of the hour, Miss Taylor Swift. So lots of news about her. I feel like every few weeks we have to have like a whole segment just about Taylor Swift. Obviously, I supplement here and there. There's little things coming up, but this week there were just like a lot. And I was like, you know what? We're going to give Taylor part of center stage with Ariana this week. We're just going to go through everything going on with her because there is a lot. Starting out with some news that I just love to see. She has donated $5 million to Feeding America for the Hurricane Helene and Milton relief efforts. So Feeding America posted a statement last week and it said, "We're incredibly grateful to Taylor Swift for her generous $5 million donation to Hurricanes Helene and Milton relief efforts. This contribution will help communities rebuild and recover, providing essential food, clean water, and supplies to the people affected by these devastating storms. Together, we can make a real impact in supporting families as they navigate the challenges ahead. Thank you, Taylor, for standing with us in the movement and to end hunger and for helping communities in need." And that was a statement from Claire Babineau Fontenot, the CEO of Feeding America. And just, obviously I don't think Taylor did this donation to get a shout out. I'm sure she would have been totally fine with it being private, but I do think it is important, that they did mention the fact that she did donate, and it just kind of raises awareness and maybe would help other people be like, hey, I should donate if I have. I've been saying it for the past 2 weeks, like if you have anything to donate or you can just share a link or anything, just donate where you can, because it's crazy in the hot spots of these hurricanes. Like, it is really, really sad. So seeing Taylor, do her part and donating this amount of money that's life-changing money to this kind of cause. So obviously I could not donate $5 million, but I have donated what I can, and I'm encouraging everybody else to donate as well. Feeding America seems like a great organization. I forget what organization I've had linked in my description for the past 2 weeks, but I will link Feeding America. I'll link the other one down below as well. So just, make sure everything is good to go. Make sure you can help how you can. Share the link. It's important to give back where you can. But I love that little tidbit. Had to give Taylor a shout out. And the week continued with some fun Taylor things. So she has been out and about in New York this week. She's getting ready to kick off the Eras Tour again later this week in Miami. So it's the last week with her and Travis to just kind of like be a couple together and like go out and do things. So they have been soaking up every single minute together and I am loving it. So on Friday night, they went back to the Corner Store, which is the restaurant that they were at a few weeks ago in New York. It's like the newest hotspot. I'm dying to go. I haven't been yet, but like people say it is so good. And it was very popular before Taylor went, and now it just keeps getting more popular. And again, this is her second time going, so it's just going to get more impossible to get a reservation. So I will get there eventually, hopefully. But that being said, Taylor, Travis, Blake, and Ryan did go to the Corner Store this weekend. There was a headline saying that like Travis and Taylor were wearing matching Louis Vuitton jewelry. She had a ring on, he had a charm necklace and a bracelet. I don't think it was intentional matching. I think they're both just really rich people who can afford Louis Vuitton jewelry, so they were wearing it. They were like, oh my God, is this like a friendship bracelet thing that they're doing? Like, are they trying to be matchy-matchy? I think those people are just, reaching for a headline. But who knows? I don't know. I wasn't there when they got dressed, nor were these editors or people writing these articles. But the second night out, so Saturday night, this is where it gets a little more interesting. So they went to Teresi, which is a restaurant in Soho, and the way that fans detect things in Easter eggs is crazy. So she had a bag on and there was a snake on it. So immediately, obviously, everybody just like raises the question of like, when is Reputation coming? Like, what is going on? She loves to throw these little Easter eggs at us and then like completely leave us high and dry. But she knows what she's doing. Taylor Swift puts a snake on her body. She knows what fans are going to speculate from it. So I definitely don't think it's nothing. But I've said over and over, I do not think we're getting Reputation this year. I think she just likes to like keep us on her toes and likes to, kind of throw us a curveball. So who knows if we do end up getting it this year? Maybe that's the 18th release that we're going to get because that is the day that she starts the tour again. But I'm going to say no because I feel like we would have known by now. But that being said, she was out and about again down in Soho. And then last night on Monday night, her and Travis went to a Yankee game together. Love that they are, doing a little bit of restaurants or doing some sport outings. It's not all about going to a Chiefs game and cheering on your boyfriend. You can go on and cheer other people too. So we love to see them, representing a New York team. So very cute, just sporty spice. They were like cuddled up together in their suite. What is it called? Their box? I don't fucking know. I don't do sports, but they were all cuddled up. They were like kissing each other. It was very cute. So again, as unnormal as their lives are, I love to see them out for date night. I love to see them out just doing like things that normal couples would do, even in the magnitude in which they are. I mean, not that a normal couple can go to like a Yankees game and sit in a suite or get into these like impossible restaurants to get reservations for. Like, I'm sure Taylor just like had Tree call the restaurant and be like, hey, I need a table for 4 in 5 minutes. Taylor Swift was walking in and they probably kicked people to the street just to get her in where everybody else cannot get a reservation. But they're doing as normal as they can. And for that, we have to appreciate. And then wrapping things up with our Taylor Swift talk for the week. Like I said, the Eras Tour is back this week. So she has 3 shows in Miami at the Hard Rock Stadium. She is kicking off the final leg of the tour, which feels like it was a long time coming. No pun intended. So she has shows in the US, and then she goes to Canada, and then we are done with the Eras Tour. So 3 shows this week in Miami, which means surprise songs are back. I'm not expecting anything new or any changes to the set list. I don't think we're going to get anything, crazy like it was when she came back after TTPD. There's not really anything to add or change. And I feel like with this final leg, it would make the most sense to just kind of like keep the show as it is and just like end it on a high note. So we will see, you never know with this lady. She loves to pull things out of her ass. So we will see what she does, but very excited to see what is in store. And I just always love seeing the surprise songs. We will talk about them next week. If there's anything to talk about, there might not be. But that being said, we also got a very exciting announcement from Taylor this morning. So she went on Good Morning America to announce that she is releasing the Eras Tour book alongside with the anthology Tortured Poets Department on vinyl. So we've been asking for the anthology on vinyl for months, and we are finally getting it alongside this book. So it is the official Taylor Swift Eras Tour book. It is going to feature personal reflections written by Taylor Swift, a 256-page hardcover book, over 500 images, including never-before-seen performance photos from every era, and exclusive rehearsal photos from behind-the-scenes images of instruments, costumes, set pieces, and designer sketches. So this is such a perfect way to kind of wrap up the tour and like give the fans something to commemorate it with besides all the merch and the friendship bracelets, things like that. This is like a nice little like coffee table moment. It can be a nice decor piece. It could be something to display in your room. So I love this. Will I be purchasing it? Probably not. It's just not something that I feel the need to display in my house, but if this is something up your alley, I love that for you. Purchase it, buy it. And on top of that, she is also releasing, like I said, the Tortured Poets Department, the anthology on vinyl. So it's going to be 35 tracks, including 4 acoustic bonus songs. It is 4 marbled translucent vinyl discs. And the vinyl album will also include a never before seen 12 by 12 poster. So like I said, people have been asking for the anthology on vinyl for months. Now we are finally getting it. All to say, it is very interesting that these are coming out in store only at Target on Black Friday. They will be available online on November 30th, so whatever the Saturday is called after Black Friday, so only a day after online if you don't want to go out to Black Friday and deal with the crowds. But it's very interesting that Taylor is choosing to go Target and not Record Store Black Friday, because we all know Taylor has done so many things with Record Store Black Friday before. She's released Debut, Fearless, 1989, Red, and Speak Now, all through Record Store Day. She was the Record Store Day's first global ambassador on their 15th anniversary of the celebrations. They did the Lake 7-inch gold flake vinyl. The Long Pond studio session was a Record Store Day exclusive. She's always good about supporting local record stores and sending signed copies and exclusives to these smaller record stores. So it's very interesting the fact that it's not a Record Store Day exclusive and it is through Target. I just want to know how fat the check was that Target cut Taylor to get the vinyl exclusive for the anthology, because it had to be a pretty penny, and good for her. I hope that check cleared. I hope it is sitting pretty in her bank account, because for them to get the exclusive of this sought after vinyl when Record Store Day is literally doing a Black Friday sale as well, it had to be a fat check for them to cut Taylor to get that exclusive. And you know what? As much as I would love for her to be doing this at a smaller record store and, doing the whole give back there, she's done her part. She's also had a long relationship with Target. I think since Speak Now, maybe even Fearless. Definitely since Speak Now, she's done Target exclusives with them. So she is, switching gears back to her roots and doing some Target exclusives there. So, I'm not sure if I will be buying the anthology on vinyl, only because I don't listen to that part of the album a lot. I've said it before, 31 tracks is a lot for me to digest. And I do think it's a great second half of the album, but I really do just stick with the first half. It resonates better with me. I like it better. And I already have that on vinyl. I don't know if I need a 4 LP of the anthology, so we will see. Odds are pointing to no. But again, if that is something you're interested in, I am encouraging, go out to Target on Black Friday, get yourself a book, get yourself the vinyl, and celebrate the holiday season with Miss Taylor Swift. What else could you ask for? Moving on to our second to last segment of the show, just a TV recap. We are recapping Real Housewives of New York and Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So kicking it off with Real Housewives of New York, they're kind of coming down from the excitement of Bryn's party from the episode before, and they're kind of just hung up on everything that happened, which I understand. And it was very heated and it was very tensions were high, so I get why they're still kind of hanging on to it. But I do feel like I was saying last week, I feel like the Bryn villain storyline is kind of going to be a thing all season long, and I'm curious how it's going to prolong throughout the season. So I guess time will tell. But we see Erin and Uba wig shopping with Erin's mom, which is so heartbreaking to see what Erin's mom is going through. But it seems like she's in high spirits to, be able to go wig shopping and be on camera doing it and things like that. So besides that point, Erin ends up saying that she kind of just is dealing with the fact that Bryn takes stories and adds her own words to it and kind of spins them in her own way for her own dramatic reenactment of it almost. So obviously Erin is kind of just over the Brynification of stories, and Uba, we know by the end of the season, has a blowout fight with Bryn that gets crazy. So we will see kind of how this transpires. But I'm every little thing that Erin says to Uba, or that anybody says to Uba about Bryn this season, I'm keeping in a filing folder, because like I said last week, I am so curious to see what is the straw that breaks the camel's back that makes Uba and Bryn finally have this giant blowout. So we will see. We also see Sai and Jenna talking about the argument with Bryn, and Sai kind of reflecting on her relationship with Bryn and where it's at now. Obviously, we saw that Sai freaked out on Bryn. She called her Satan literally at her party out in public. And it was all because she was upset that Brynn told Jenna that Sai hated her. Jenna did tell her that she heard the rumor from multiple people and not just Brynn, and Sai could not have cared less who it came from. She was only focused on Brynn, which definitely isn't fair to Brynn, because if multiple people are talking shit about her, she should be holding them all to the same accountability. But obviously Brynn is in the hot seat after the party, so she's not having it. She did also say that she did reach out to Brynn over Thanksgiving because she knows that Brynn has a difficult time during the holidays because of her family situation, and she didn't answer her and didn't seem interested in spending any time with her. So then she, the normal thing that you do, you leak somebody's text on TV. She instantly jumps to showing off this carbon monoxide text, which I know it's for the plot and it's the drama, and it caught my attention. Hearing somebody call themselves carbon monoxide and that they sneak up on you and kill you, that is a crazy way to admit in your inner workings and how you handle situations. And I don't know if Brynn ever thought that would actually see the light of day on the show, but I'm sure it was definitely a shock for her to see it on the show, and for Sai to just bring it up to Jenna and be like, well, remember this text? And Jenna even said, she was like, yeah, when I got that text, I didn't really know how to respond to it because it was a little bit insane. And yeah, if somebody texted me in a heated argument and was like, just so you know, somebody once called me carbon monoxide because you never know when I'm gonna sneak in on you and kill you, I would be like, oh, this bitch is clinically insane. I do kind of think it's a fun little cunty reference, I'm not gonna lie. It is kind of I don't know, it has I see, I see the power and the effect that it would have from Brynn's side, but I definitely think Sai, airing that out on TV, I don't think Brynn ever expected that, but when you sign a contract with Bravo, girl, expect the unexpected. And then we finally see Brynn and Erin start to try to mend their relationship, and they really are such sisters. Erin has said it since the first season, she sees Brynn like a little sister, and she kind of has that relationship with her where they hate each other, they fight, they argue, but they love each other at the end of the day. So she gets there. It is a little heated, they are going back and forth, and they're kind of going tit for tat on what happened at the party and what was said about each other on the podcast and online and here and there. And, all of this is drama that it's just kind of insane, but it ends up, they end up being okay. They cry, they, express what's going on in their personal lives and things like that. And at the end of the day, I'm sure they're all right. They're fine. They will fight again, I'm sure, by the end of the season, but we will see. I do feel one of the big character arcs of this season is going to be Brynn being a villain. So I'm curious to see who is cool with her by the end and who is not. So we will, hold out for that. We also finally find out why Erin and Abe were fighting. He sold her Bitcoin without her permission. He's not being transparent about things in their relationship. It seems like rich people problems. I understand Erin being upset, but I was kind of this is the big mistrust thing that, you've been teasing for the last 2 episodes. Definitely, I understand her being upset about it, but I thought it was bigger. I thought it was a bigger deal. And maybe to her it is. Who am I to be it's not as big a deal as she's making it? Because if that is something and it is their funds and it is her money as well, and it's now sold and gone and she was kind of banking on it for certain things, I do understand where she's coming from. Sometimes it takes me saying things out loud to actually understand the magnitude of things. And you know what? I take it back. This might be a rich person problem, but I also would be mad if somebody sold my share of a stock or Bitcoin or something without my permission. You know what? She has every right to be mad. I take back what I said. I was always team Erin. I wasn't even siding with Abe in that point because obviously I'm always taking the woman's side, but yeah, I understand why she was mad. I literally have in my notes, rich people problem, LOL. But you know what? This is an issue. I understand. Now saying it out loud, I get it. And the final thing that we see in the episode is that we are finally addressing the Rebecca Minkoff Scientology drama. So Brynn brings it up in the helicopter and asked, if somebody does ask us about the Scientology thing, what are we supposed to say? And she says, tell them you have no comment, which obviously she should know. She's in the press. That's never a response. You can't just tell someone, oh, I have no comment, sorry. Especially these girls, they always have a comment. So I do think that's going to be a developing thing throughout the season, and we will learn more about her involvement in Scientology and how the girls end up handling it as the season goes on. So we will see. Like I said, this season, I like Real Housewives of New York. I am a fan of it, but I definitely, when you compare it to Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, which we're going to do in a second, there's definitely different tiers of drama and entertainment where Erin and Brynn are arguing over something that Erin never even said in a podcast, and Meredith and Whitney are arguing over the fact that Whitney is getting her jewelry from Alibaba and reselling it. Definitely different different landscapes there. But that being said, let's talk about Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So the girls are still in Milwaukee on Whitney's trip. They are ending up at this drag bar. But before then, we see that Whitney plans a day for them to go tour the Miller Brewing Company. And Lisa decides that she is not going. And she convinces Brittany and Milai to go curling with her, which definitely is a little, a little shady boots of her to like it's one thing to want to do your own thing because you have beef with Whitney, but to then drag two other girls out of her plans when it's her vacation, that was definitely a little shady. But Lisa Barlow does whatever she wants, and she wanted to go curling, so that is what she did. So we see they are at the Miller Brewing Company, like I said, and the girls go on a little tour, and Heather and Whitney stay back, and Heather decides to tell Whitney about the shit that Meredith is talking about her on this tour, which is insane. They're literally sitting in like the Miller Brewing caves and like literally in this like historic, really cool environment. Apparently it's like a huge deal to do in Milwaukee. And Heather's like, by the way, Meredith said that you buy your jewelry from Alibaba and resell it, which is just like, again, it's Whitney's vacation and Whitney's plans. Like to drop that bomb on her while she is doing something that she is obviously excited about is crazy. Obviously, it's part of the plot, and they're just trying to like add fuel to the fire while the girls are out. And then what's crazier than that to me is Heather being like, hey, don't bring it up on the trip. Like, let's wait till we get home to bring it up. And what does Whitney do? She brings it up on the bus ride over to their dinner. And I'm just like, why would you bring it up on the way to dinner if you're 10 minutes later going to be like, oh, by the way, put a pin in this because tonight's dinner is really important to me. It just made no sense. Like, I didn't understand her prerogative and like her MO with this. Like, why? I understand bringing it up, and I do think it was a necessary conversation to have with Meredith eventually, but to bring it up in front of everybody on the way to dinner and then get into this fight with them and be like, hey, by the way, put a pin in this because tonight's really important for me. I just like, why bring it up at the first place? You know what I mean? Like, just wait till you get home. I think they had like 2 days left on the trip. So didn't make sense to me, but nothing these girls do make sense because as they're arguing in a Sprinter van, they walk into the Harley Davidson Museum and they are like peaches and cream, all good to go. So clearly it's easy for them to, let things go in the moment and bring it up later. But the night does not go clearly as planned. Whitney ends up giving everybody necklaces from her brand out at dinner, which obviously is the root of the fight, her jewelry brand with Meredith, and it just lets everybody loose. So Lisa ends up standing up for Meredith. Angie starts standing up for Whitney against Lisa because we know Lisa and Angie have their drama right now. So obviously Angie and Whitney are like buddy-buddy. Lisa and Meredith have gone through I feel like they've gone through like therapy essentially to become friends again, because if you remember season 1, they were besties and then they had that falling out. So the two of them have done a lot of work to like get back to a good place. So seeing Lisa and Meredith stand up for each other is very heartwarming for somebody who loves the two of them. But it does make sense that like Angie is so team Whitney and Lisa is so team Meredith in this. And then Lisa and Angie just like go at it. So Angie is clearly exhausted from this friendship with Lisa. She's like, I miss meals with my daughter. I miss moments with my daughter because Lisa is always on the phone with me. They are just like, clearly Lisa is very codependent with her friends, which isn't a good or a bad thing, I would say. Like, I think it definitely has its pros and cons, and like that is what friends are for, to lean on. But maybe Lisa's leaning a little bit too much on Angie and any of her friends in general. So who knows, obviously I think we're going to learn a lot more about that as we go on through this season. But I do think it was a low blow for Lisa to bring up Angie's daughter as like ammo during this fight. I definitely think that was like not the coolest thing. And I understand why Angie like stood up and like threw her chair down to really like mama bear assert her dominance. So I thought it was a low blow, but I think Angie had a good rebuttal for it. And then the last thing during the episode, we hear Brittany say she finally broke up with Jared, and it definitely felt like a weird place to say it. Like Angie and Lisa, Whitney and Meredith are all fighting or in like a Harley Davidson museum. And just to be like, oh, by the way, I broke up with my boyfriend who was actually never my boyfriend, who you all know was, cheating on me with somebody else, but is treating me as his best friend, but he's my boyfriend in my mind. Like the whole situation is messy. And for her to bring it up at dinner just seemed really weird. And then like where it went from there was so bizarre because her and Bronwyn start going at it. So Bronwyn asks, are you in love with him? Are you in love with his name? Because he is an Osmond brother like Donnie and Marie. And Brittany says you should worry about your own marriage and kind of like throws in the face of like, are you in love with your husband for, him or his money? Which is a question that Bronwyn has already addressed throughout the season because it's like a 25-year age gap between Bronwyn and Todd, but she clearly, during this, she like puts her foot down. She's like, we don't even have a prenup. When we met, I didn't even know how much money he had. Like, we hit it off in a bar and just started dating. Like, that's how it was. I'm sure the money helped, and I don't think she would deny that. Like, obviously, her husband is like top tier. He like created the Palm Pilot or something. Like, he's very smart, very rich, like has a lot of money. So I don't think it hurt the situation, but I think the fact that she admitted to like them not even having a prenup, I was like, oh my God, like she's like, yep, I'm in, this is my thing. Like, I think she really shut Brittany down in that moment. And though Brittany did have the right to question her the same way Bronwyn questioned her, I think Bronwyn's response was a lot heavier and like really hit home harder than Brittany's ever could have, because Bronwyn was like, absolutely not. We are not going to do this. So I think Bronwyn cleared. Again, I love Brittany. I do. I think she's fun in the cast of characters, but she's not making a great case for herself so far this season. So we will see where it goes from there. We'll see if she gets a snowflake next season. Who knows? And once again, they're just so good at like blowing things over and acting like nothing happened, because the episode ends with Bronwyn in a couture hot dog costume at Trixie Mattel's drag bar. So like they have these blowout fights all throughout the night, and then they end up at a drag bar doing a drag show and just like having the time of their life. So clearly like they're all able to tolerate each other to a point where like they can be in the same room with each other and like be fine. So who knows where everybody ends up. I am loving Salt Lake City this season so far. I'm loving RHONY too, but obviously Salt Lake City packs a little bit more of a punch, especially after what happened last season. So just like, a lot on the line for these Salt Lake City girls, and they are delivering every single episode. So very curious to see, where it goes from here. But like I said, we will recap this every single week and see what's in store for these Salt Lake City girls. And with that, we have made it to the final segment of the show. It is time for my yes and my mess of the week. My yes being something I am loving, and my mess being something I am not loving. So we always kick it off on a high note here at Too Pop to Handle. And this week, my yes is somebody who, it should come to no surprise if you listen to the show, if you know me at all, anything Anne Hathaway does is just, I love the bitch. I think she is just everything and then some, and she just continues to prove that she truly is mother. So Monday night, she endorsed Kamala Harris, which we all know Anne Hathaway is always on the right side of her story, so I didn't have any doubt in who she was voting for, but she finally came out, fully endorsed Kamala Harris, and she performed at the Broadway for Harris fundraiser and performed Somebody to Love by Queen, which first and foremost, who's going to start the petition to get Anne Hathaway back on Broadway? Because every time I hear her sing, I'm like, we need this bitch back on stage. She was in a few off-Broadway productions, and I believe one Broadway production in the past, but like, who is going to get Anne Hathaway back on a Broadway stage? Because I need it so bad. I mean, I know she is a little bit busy right now because she's filming like every sequel to every movie she's ever been in, but when that is all said and done, can we please cast her in something? Because I would love to see her back on stage and let's like using those vocals that she has, because she's a great singer, honestly. Like, she has a very nice voice. And it was also so fun because it was reminiscent of the scene in Ella Enchanted where she sings Somebody to Love. And it was just like a full, a fun little moment. She looked great. She was wearing like this leather little moment, singing for a great cause. Nothing but respect for the Princess of Genovia. I love Anne Hathaway, and this was just like a cherry on top of like, I feel like we've been talking about her a lot lately, especially last week with the sequels coming out. She's just like a hot topic always in my mind. So anyone when I get to celebrate Anne Hathaway, I think I actually titled an episode once celebrating Anne Hathaway. Like, I'm pretty sure I had an entire episode where I just talked about how much I loved Anne Hathaway. So should come to a shock to nobody. And moving on to somebody who just continuously lets me down. Not somebody that I necessarily like seek out or follow anywhere or like stan, or I wouldn't even say that I'm a fan of this person, but Azalea Banks, just like, I don't understand what her motive is. Like, it is always something. And when you think she's just like gotten to the lowest point that she can and like said the nastiest, meanest things about people, she just finds a way to be nastier and meaner. And I'm just honestly, it's been a while, like a long time coming, where I'm like, I'm done with her. We have to wrap it up. Like, she's just deplatform her, stop like feeding into it. Like, it's very much giving Kanye West. And I think at this point, like, I'm bowing out. I was never really fully bowed in, but like, I am fully bowed out at this point. So she made a lot of headlines this weekend. She made a statement saying that Vogue by Madonna is a trash record. She said that she could cover Vogue and give it its justice, and like pretty much saying like Madonna's vocal capabilities were not there and like anybody could have done Vogue. And like, at the end of the day, like, there's only one Madonna. whether you think she's the best vocalist or the best this or that, like nobody was doing it like Madonna back when she was doing all this shit. And like nobody's ever going to do it like Madonna because there is one Madonna. And like, say what you want. She's Madonna. She still is the one who like broke all these records and broke all these boundaries. Like to come out in the year 2024 and say that Vogue My Madonna is a trash track is just like, can you use any of the two brain cells that you have left and like make a coherent and like make sense of a statement? Please. She also was talking about Kesha and Dr. Luke, and this is where I really kind of just like drew the line because I was like, all right, this is stepping too far because obviously the whole situation with Kesha and Dr. Luke is such a sensitive topic for Kesha and just like for anyone who's been a victim of any type of like sexual abuse or things like that. And for her to come out and just try to like downplay whatever happened with Kesha just feels so icky to me. So she tweeted, to be quite fucking fair, Dr. Luke is puny. He's like 4'9". Kesha is 6'3". Even I could beat Dr. Luke's ass. He really is that tiny. It was no industry secret that Kesha and Luke were consensually doing drugs and drinking together. Kesha's weird ass mother. And then she went on to tweet, Kesha is a fucking dumbass. She did all that lying to end up making songs absolutely nobody wants to hear and will still be defined and confined by the hit she made with Luke for the rest of her life. Kesha is never going to produce a damn thing the public wants to hear. She should have sat there and ate her food. And like to sit there and boil somebody down to the only good work they have is with their abuser, especially when like Kesha's music after working with Dr. Luke was still really, really good. Like obviously the reason Kesha was so big when she was so big and when she was working with Dr. Luke is because she was coming on the scene and doing things that were so like different and abstract and not the norm. Like she really introduced like a normalcy with an auto-tune in mainstream pop. Like she was thinking about like crazy nights out and like doing drugs and getting crazy and like obviously, there were already people singing about those things, but the way Kesha did it when she came on the scene and was so like blunt with it and just like in our face, like it wasn't just Dr. Luke who like made Kesha Kesha. Kesha is Kesha because she's Kesha. So I think to like to say these things, and especially like as a woman to a woman, it just is like when it's enough. And I think this is me like waving my white flag with Adelia Banks. Like, yes, if 212 comes on at the club, like I'm not gonna not sing along because it's like a fun song, but like you won't catch me putting it on any playlist anymore. Not that I defend her ever, but like I think this really is like my final white flag where I'm just like, can you just like somebody either has to like do a mental health check on her or she needs to just like be completely deplatformed because the things that she says are so outlandish and you might think they're funny, you might think it's haha or whatever, but like this is just rude. The Madonna thing is whatever. She also made comments about Julia Fox and Kanye. Like that's one thing, but like I just think like going this low below the belt and saying Kesha's never going to release a song that the general public wants to hear if it's not produced by Dr. Luke, and like saying that he's 4'9" and Kesha's 6'3", she could beat Dr. Luke's ass. Like you're just like making the conversations around victims speaking out. You're just like closing the door that is already so hard to open. And I just think that's a line that, especially as a woman in the music industry, you should not be crossing. And I think that's the perfect note to end it on. I'm waving my white flag with Adelia Banks and I love Anne Hathaway. There you have it. Thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode of Too Pop to Handle. If you liked what you heard and you're listening to us as a podcast, make sure you follow the show. Make sure you leave us a 5-star rating, leave me a review. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like, drop a comment, do all of the things except for dislike. You guys know the drill. And I say it every single week. If everybody listening to this episode sends it to one friend, I will double in listeners. It is easy math. If this hour-long podcast was not enough and you would like some more moments from the week that were just too pop to handle, make sure you follow my newsletter, Popping In, over on Substack. It'll be linked down below. Follow me on my socials at Too Pop to Handle. My personal is at Andrew Nucatola. And with that, I will catch you guys next week. Bye!